Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Snap Judgments. This is Randy, and today I have Tyler, aka Paper Waves DE, on X or Twitter or whatever it is you want to call it. Um, he's a Patriots fan, a commenter, analyst, part of the Patriots draft community, Patriots community, not draft community, Patriots community. But we also are very big draft nerds. So, uh, Paperwaves and I connected. We were talking on a different video with a guy, Pat Stats. He does a lot of good videos out there, and we were going back and forth about the endless mystery of how old Max Ihenacor is, which
Yes.
nobody still knows. Nobody knows. But we're all assuming he's 22 now for some reason. I'm not sure what the reason is, but you know what?
Dan Bruder.
Yeah, screw it. I'll go with it for now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah,
crazy how we got in
listen.
contact, man.
I don't know. It's weird that the mystery has continued for so long.
Us,
But why don't you introduce yourself and tell people where they can find your breakdowns and so forth?
definitely, man. Thank you again for having me, Randy. I really appreciate it. So I'm Tyler. I run Patriots Draft Room. .com. It's a pretty cool blog site that I've started up throughout the season. I got kind of tired of being the guy that was always arguing with people on YouTube and not having like any room to say I got this right or X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I'm just gonna make my own site and give my opinions there. You only have so many characters you can say when you're debating with people in a comment section anyway. So it's like I
Yeah.
might as well just give all my full takes and roll with it from there. A lot of my friends just in life or in general just like always asked me for draft advice because they just knew I was a big draft nerd
Mhm.
and always watching college ball. And so if I came across somebody, they were like, "Oh, dude, I watched that guy you told me about. Like, he's legit." And then sometimes they end up panning out, sometimes they don't. That's just the mystery of the draft. But if you can really just stake your claim on some guys, it's really cool seeing them pan out like it has for me a couple of the guys in previous years, and hopefully will
Yeah,
be the case this.
that's what this is all about is having the fucking receipts, okay? Like I want the
Definitely.
receipts. I want it written down. I want it on video. I want whatever because I said that like 2 years ago, and now they're saying, or I said it 2 weeks ago, or whatever. Like I say it all the time, man. Like it drives me friggin' crazy because I'll be saying some stuff, and then in like a week, all the dudes who get paid to do this shit say it, and it's like, come on, this was obvious, you know. It's I mean, the AJ Brown trade is a perfect example. It was always going to be after June 1st. The cap numbers haven't ever changed. Nothing about it's changed. The 2027 draft picks are still better than the 2026. Like all of this has been true for like 3 months. They just people need content and they want to yak about shit, and it drives me fucking crazy. But now you see all these dudes are coming out with like, oh yeah, well, you know, if AJ Brown's traded, it's not going to be till June 1st. I'm like, that's what I said like
I've been
six
saying
weeks
it.
ago, 2 months ago, or something. Like,
I was like, you just literally look at when the cap is freeing for the Eagles. Like it's not impossible to like kind of figure out. It's really just
yeah,
looking ahead. People just kind of don't want to do that. They just want the direct answer right in their face, and especially when free agency starts, or I guess the transactional process begins, and everybody wants immediate success. And it's not the case. You build your team as you go, and you get your answers from free agency. Set your foundation. Go into the draft finish the draft. What else do we need? That's
yeah.
where these kind of tend to happen. So
Well, and it's the like, listen, if there's a team that you're going to catch, it's probably not the Eagles. Okay. They know that this thing is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Okay.
yeah,
And they are planning long term. They have a multi year view of their team building and of their goals and how they're going to accomplish those goals and so forth. So it would be one thing if this draft class was considered like crazy good and we had a good pick in this draft class and so forth. But the simple fact of the matter is, next year's draft class, by pretty much anybody who has an opinion on it, thinks is going to be significantly better, like throughout. And our pick is likely going to be better than 31. I mean, that's not me being a pessimist about the Patriots. That's just like, you know, all the numbers in favor of that. Do I hope it's 32? Hell yeah, I do. Would I be happy if it was 31, I mean, sure, it's more likely going to be one of those 30 other picks, okay, which are more valuable than this one in a more valuable draft class, plus a timeline where you're saving $30 million in cap room. It's a fucking no brainer. It drives me crazy. Um, but let's get into kind of the guys that we're going to talk about here. And Tyler and I, we have some differing opinions on some guys, and it's not like we hate some of these guys, but we just see them at a different value, or we see them in terms of a different fit for whether or not they fit this team or not. And a lot of times too, people don't seem to understand, like, when I say I don't like a player, sometimes it means I don't like a player for this team. And it might be for a specific reason. It might be for a role related reason. It might be because I just don't think he's a good fit inside the locker room with like the goals and the things that I've heard about him and kind of the attitude or whatever. There's just different things that it's like. So I was talking with somebody about Luther Burden the other earlier. Maybe it was yesterday. And they were talking about how how mad they were that we didn't take Luther Bird and they really liked him. And I was like, dude, I just never thought he was a good fit for this team. Like, I just didn't think, like, all the things I had read about him, the things I had heard about him and stuff, I just didn't think he was a good fit for this team. On the field, maybe, but like off the field, there were just some things. And I was like, I just don't know if you really like at some point in time you want to take some risk, but you don't want to do that like day one. Like day one with my second pick, I'm going to take this guy who he just might be a little bit of a pain in the ass. And like, you don't want that. And we didn't see them do that either. They went with solid character guys across the board, trying to build up the foundation of this thing, which is kind of what I thought was going to happen. But point being is that it's not like I hate Luther Burden. Okay. It's not like I like have something against him or something, or I think he's an awful player. I just didn't think he'd be a great fit for this team. Like, I'm happy to see him doing well in Chicago. That's great. I don't have anything against the guy. I just didn't think he was a great fit for this team. And so when we're comparing and contrasting some of these players, like, don't get it twisted. Like, the fact that I'm in favor of this guy over that guy doesn't mean that Tyler hates my guy and I hate his guy. So, I just want to kind of like get that out there and preface everything with that.
It's literally a fun assignment for us both because like we're just taking the fence of why it would make more sense in your opinion to take this guy, and I'm gonna take the other side why I think it's gonna be more beneficial. But at the same time, we both kind of agree on most of these guys. I'm cool taking any of them. Like, whatever is going to make the most sense for us, benefit the team. Even our receiver selections would both be great options for Drake May that we're going to cover here too. So definitely looking forward to this with you, Randy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hop right into the first thing. I like offensive tackle in the first round. I like offensive tackle at 31. I think it's going to be where BPA meets need. And I think that's where you want to make your selections. Do we need edges? Sure. But this is a deep edge class. And I feel like at 63, or maybe even trading up a little bit from 63, you'll be able to secure yourself a real good edge player, at least a guy who's going to contribute. I've been saying throughout this process that we're not finding centerpieces in this draft. We're finding puzzle pieces. We're finding dudes that fit what we need, not dudes that you're going to build an entire team around. And that's fine. That's cool. I think you can find a lot of that in the edge class in the second round, again, from like 50 to 70 in that range. I think offensive tackle, there's just a dearth of talent between about 30 to 35 and about 90 to 95. That's about 2 rounds where you're either going to be reaching to take the next tackle or you're not going to see tackles taken. So I kind of feel like 31 might be the last opportunity to take a tackle that could really contribute if you needed him to. And for me, that guy is Blake Miller. Like, this is a guy who is just, he kind of personifies the phrase Vrabel guy. He's an Iron Man. Okay. He missed one practice in 4 years at Clemson. It was because he had surgery that morning. He was back the next day. Like, this guy is a tough player who has played every down, has played at a top program. Like, did they have a great year this year? No. Was it the fault of the right tackle? For sure not. He went out there and he did his job. And I just think that sort of do your job, lunch pail, hard hat mentality, That's what I want on this line. Opposite Will Campbell, bookends for the next decade. Um, but you prefer Max Ihenacho, and you know, let's hear about why. I guess.
Yeah, so in this situation, so if we were to take Blake Miller, I kind of view it as we're taking like immediate starter or like Moses, your job's on the line because this guy is ready to. I think he's ready to start day one. Whereas
Mhm.
Ionakor, or the numerous random names that I constantly hear, so we're going to go with Ionakor for today.
I just
Since
go with Max.
Max boy, how we call him.
Yep.
He is. It's an awesome story for how it's crazy to think. I had a comment I said to somebody earlier today that there's guys that dream of being in Max's position that have spent their entire lives playing football, and this guy just did it in 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like going
Yeah.
from JUCO to this, like he started as a soccer player, was then a soccer basketball player. We both had like a long talk about like we can't figure out, we don't know, we were trying to find every Carfax imaginable. I don't even see this
Yeah.
guy in a soccer uniform at high school.
Yeah.
We were trying to get to the bottom of this.
Oh yeah,
But
no, we were tracking this kid like a Dominican kid in a 12-year-old baseball league. Okay. Like we saw a mustache and we were like, no, fuck that. We're finding the birth certificate. Okay. Like we were birthers when Obama was president. Like whatever. We were tracking this kid down like fucking crazy people. And
right,
we never got an answer, really. October 19th is his birthday, but we don't know the year.
yeah, it was a CSI NFL draft.
Yes.
Um, but um, but nah, man, he's got for a guy that they said initially he's going to be so raw. He's got things that he's going to have to need to work on because he's going to be so inexperienced. He's pretty put together for a lot of everything he is. Like he's got great hand place. Well, let's start with more of the feet. The things that are the best about him is his athleticism. His athleticism is awesome. He's a natural athlete. He's put on the weight to do it. He's got great hip fluidity to track like speed rushers, um, or to mirror out a bunch of guys. I think the main thing with him is he's the prototypical build that we're all kind of looking for here with the 34. Same deal with Blake Miller. They both have a good prototypical build, a 6'6", 321, 34 and a half inch arms was what we have for Max. But overall, man, he's just a pure competitor. And if there's a guy that we're going to take in this situation you know, for your sake of Blake Miller, you're having a guy that's I'm immediately competing with you for the starting right tackle job, which may be great, which may be a great thing to have and continue to keep Morgan Moses like a flame under him, or would it also inspire Morgan Moses more, knowing I've got this kid. I know my time's coming to an end soon, and I know they've invested the pick, but I'm cool with getting this guy right to be the next great guy and be a teacher, a leader, like he's constantly shown, helping with Will Campbell, and kind of carry that over for him this year. Um, I did want to quickly note like some uh, some issues for Max because obviously it's not all sunshine and rainbows here. He's still going to have a I had obviously the inexperience was one of it. His hand placement, there's a lot of inconsistency, especially in the run game. He just kind of loses track, especially just when there's defenders that are kind of shaking free from him. He doesn't see too much. He obviously doesn't know what's going on directly behind him. So when there's a lot of counter moves that go forward, he just loses it a bit. But all in all, man, if he can kind of work on that, as well as when he tries to get into like second levels, trying to break out the help with a power block. He just kind of there's times where he shows there's something to it. There's other times where I think he just kind of gets lost in the sauce and just doesn't have that motor, or rather, maybe it could be later in the game. I'm not tracking exactly the time frame of when it's happening, but there's just certain times I feel like he just kind of takes the foot off the gas when he does try to do second level run blocks. So
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly see the basketball and soccer background in his athleticism. And, sometimes I worry a little bit about the basketball players that kind of bulk up, like Markel Bell looks like he carries a lot of bad weight to me. It looks like he was just kind of like trying to add on weight to like be bigger. Whereas Max Ihenacor, if you look at him right there in that picture, like he's put together well. Okay. He doesn't have the skinny ankles, kind of the skinny legs that you see sometimes in those sorts of builds. And, he definitely really is put together well. I think what you talk about in terms of timeline makes sense to me too. In the world where they're taking Blake Miller, I would see honestly, I think I'd see him starting from day one and having Moses move to a swing tackle role and like a mentorship role. And I just wonder how much he might embrace that. Like
Yeah,
he took a lot of kind of vet rest sort of days, a lot of Wednesdays off. He seems to constantly be battling like little nagging injuries and so forth. And look, there's something to be said for being a starter and having the pride and all of that sort of thing. I don't know. He just seems to have really embraced like kind of the mentorship role since he's gotten here. And, on the back end of your career, like it's not like you're cutting your paycheck, right? You're just taking on kind of a different role and transitioning a little bit. I don't know. I wonder if he wouldn't welcome that sort of thing. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of the timeline, and it makes a lot of sense there. Um, the I guess we'll move right down the offensive line here. And we'll go to Jeremiah Wright and Logan Taylor. Now Jeremiah Wright, I've talked about a lot on this program. Like he's a big guy that I see slide into that Onwenu spot, right behind Onwenu. I think he could play on the left or the right, but I prefer him on the right. I prefer him like sitting a year behind Onwenu, and then next season maybe cutting that cost to the 20 million starting right guard and bringing along Jeremiah Wright, who I think you could get in the third or fourth round, probably even the fourth, 125 or 131. We saw him down at the Senior Bowl. That's really where he got my attention. I talked about him with Clint Goss on yesterday's episode, and down there they had him finish off the every day at the practice days. They'll have like a final rep, and it's oftentimes you'll see like rivalry reps. So it was him against LT Overton from Alabama, and man, he put him into the ground. And Wright he was talking the whole time, not just in that rep, but in every rep throughout him. And like, it's not like you're going to win all the reps, but man, he won a bunch of them and he looked good down there. I think he's obviously got some development, and that's why you're going to be able to get him in the fourth round. But you're talking about a guy who's like 6'5", 330 or something like that. Just a man size right guard, left guard, right guard, whatever, ready to step right in and contribute if he needs to, I think.
yeah. And for me, I had Logan Taylor. And I think the main thing with him is where in your circumstance with Jeremiah Wright, I think he's a guy that could definitely end up becoming a starter at any point. Really, I think he's got the talent and capabilities of doing so. Logan Taylor, I kind of think of more was a solid, reliable depth piece for us. And not only did he just play right, he played right guard here at BC at Boston College. He also played left tackle. He's capable of really playing wherever they need him to be. 6'7". He's what is he here? He is 314 pounds, and does have a 33 and 7/8. Basically, let's just say 34-inch arms at that point. 34-inch arms, like he's really like well built for the position. Just doesn't have that athletic streak that you like kind of would like, but I do like the positional versatility out of him. That I can see him being somebody we just say, let's go ahead and start building this Boston College pipeline. We've got a great relationship with them down there, and get somebody that if we want to continue to maintain on Wenu, we've already spent the money for AVT Elijah Vera Tucker for how I guess what is it now 3-4 years that we're gonna have AVT now. We're
Yeah.
bank Will Campbell's our left tackle. Uh, he maybe there's even a shot Logan Taylor could even be a right tackle if you wanted to try him there. There's just a lot of versatile options out of him that hey, I don't bank on this guy being a starter, but he's definitely somebody I would love to see us take a shot on to see what's his best place and can he play other places and fill in numerous roles if we need him. He'd be another Ben Brown, which is definitely a great asset to have. A Ted Karras, Ben Brown type kind of role. and go and guard and tackle, hey, that kind of fills two roles if you need it. So I definitely would take that into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was surprised that the Boston College pipeline that you kind of talked about wasn't tapped a little bit last year with Ozzie Trapillo coming out and Drew Kendall. I thought those were both positions, obviously we needed and we drafted. We drafted a tackle, we drafted a center. I was surprised that it wasn't those guys. It's kind of well known that they the Boston College coaching staff and our coaching staff are close. Like Bill O'Brien has coached here in New England. He was the coach when Vrabel was the player here, I think, but they've coached
Right.
also together in the past. Um, there's a lot of crossover between all these guys. And then on top of that, you have like I know Dante Scarnecchia works with a lot of those graduates after to prepare for the draft. And Doug Marone was the offensive line coach there for a year prior to coming here. So there's so much crossover there that it's like if they go another draft class without drafting a BC offensive lineman, I'm gonna really I don't even I'm just not gonna I'm gonna be very, very confused because there's nobody who's more of a loyal to my people guy than Vrabel, and yet
Yeah.
you just patently refuse to draft any pupils of your people. So I'd like to see them go with either a Jude Bowery or a Logan Taylor or
Yeah.
someone like that in this draft, just for the sake of the local aspect. Um, I've always one of the things that's always kind of bugged me about pro sports is I wish there was more of a local um like like membership on the team. I almost wish that like rosters were more regional. Like, and I don't care. I know we'd get smoked by like every team in Texas, Florida, and California, but I still want New England dudes on this team.
And it just builds like more of a fandom to those types of players too. So getting a guy like, I remember like the Save Flowers draft, and everybody just treated Zay Flowers like he's from Boston. I think he was from Florida or something like that. Like I don't, if I'm just going off of like a distinct memory of it, but I don't think Zay Flowers is even from like the New England area. I think he was like down south, went to BC for the opportunity and made a name for himself. But everybody's like, oh man, we're gonna get this kid from Boston College and get him home, bring him home. And I'm like, I don't think this is technically his home, guys. But it's kind of like stuff like that. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, still having like it'd be nice for not really like you're staking your claim in it because the draft is the draft, but even just UDFA guys, like getting like people from that have you have first dibs on guys local to your area would be kind of sick to just be like they weren't drafted anyway, but hey, I
Yeah.
can go ahead and claim two, three guys out of guy from let's say Rhode Island had a guy receiver a couple years ago if I'm not mistaken. Um, and then like just even UMass, anything of that sort. Just get some guys that are close by that you can pick up and stake a claim, and that'd be kind of cool. But we're not in the owners' meetings, unfortunately, so we don't get to make those judgment calls. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like the ultimate example to me was Ozzie Trapillo last year, um, where his dad played at BC. His dad was on the field for the Flutie Hail Mary. Like this kid grew up here. His dad played with the Saints and played real short stint with the Patriots in '93. But like he was the ultimate to me of like, man, get a local kid at a position we need and like really bring the local crowd in like from a marketing standpoint. And look, I love Will Campbell. He's great. I love like the whole southern charm thing and all that. Don't get me wrong, like I'm not denigrating Will Campbell at all. I just, man, I would have really liked to get Trapillo as like a swing tackle backup that develops and is like again that connection to the local crowd.
I think we definitely had interest in him. I think he went higher than we expected. I didn't expect him to be in the third round. I kind of thought like fourth, fifth round, like
Yeah.
really early day two, like something of that sort, like maybe would be like the best spot for him. I think the Bears just saw the potential in him, and look what happened for him. He got the start this year for the Bears, so I mean that's pretty credible for him, and shows like they really believed in him and let him go out there and do his thing because rather you earned the starting job or it was because it was in a pinch, it doesn't matter. You still got the opportunity to do it, and we're all talking about how well he did. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would have really liked to see him here, but yeah, I think you're right. I think ultimately, I think he went a little earlier than people expected, and maybe we were hoping to get him at 105 or at 95 or whatever, where we ultimately took Jared Wilson, and just it just didn't work out to have him end up here. And hey, who knows? Who knows?
yeah,
Maybe at some point in his career, he will play here in a Patriot uniform. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
hey,
But listen, let's get to the meat of this debate, okay? This is the real actual point of contention. All right.
we got
Because look, we're not trying to come out. We don't, just because we're on opposite sides of the debate doesn't mean we don't like these guys. You know what? I don't like R. Mason Thomas. All right. No, I'm all
you know
right with
what
like I don't hate him, okay? But I don't like him
I,
for this team. I don't like him in the first round. I don't like him as a high pick. I think he's a third round pick. Um, I just
I
think he's overrated. So tell
I
me why I'm wrong.
I just can't bring myself to tell you the same about Gabe Atkins because I love him too, man. He's great. Um, nah. So really, our Mason Thomas, man. I think this kind of just goes back into what he did at Oklahoma this year. He was freaking awesome. It was game after game after game. You couldn't go. I don't even really recall many times it felt like it was quiet, except for times that he had something hampering him during the game. He had a couple of injuries that he did end up playing through, but outside of that, man, he made Caden Proctor eat his lunch twice. And I mean, I know a lot of people got a lot of shit to say about Caden Proctor, but I mean, it's still kind of one of those things that like he,
Listen, Caden Proctor eats lunch twice every day without being asked. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he just for me, it was just like even going up against a guy twice, you'd think Alabama would have prepared him even further. Like you just played him, you should be able to know how to tailor your game to him, and then he just didn't do it. And it was like, like is this guy just that good that he's just like it's just like kind of doing two poster dunks back to back is kind of what it felt like for me watching him. Um, man, there's so many times I watch him that he just plays with heart. If he gets double teamed, if there's a free rusher, he doesn't just bank on the secondary chasing him. He's ditching the whole line and he's still trying to catch up with the corners and stuff. As there's one play that I shared, reposted on Twitter
Yeah.
yesterday that he was double teamed. He had a duo block on him and shed off the guys at the back half of the block and noticed the secondary doesn't have him. I got to step up and get my ass down there and stop the guy. He beat out his corners, his safety, everybody back there, and was able to stop the block just so they didn't get the touchdown. I don't know if the game was on the line or not, but damn, dude, that's effort, that's heart, and that's something that I think Frable would look at and say, this dude is a finisher. He plays relentless. He wants to get to the quarterback, and he's pretty damn good at a lot of the things he does. If he could just be a little bit better in the run, stuffing game, that's an area to work on. He's a little undersized, yes, but I think we're talking kind of in a safe zone. Like what was he even listed here as? Just to confirm my numbers, 6'1", borderline 6'2". He's at 241. So we're definitely in like this undersized territory, but it's still a situation that he showed that he can handle numerous blockers. I think taller blockers surprisingly got the edge up on him a little bit. Like so, guys probably in that 6'7", 6'8" range. But even then, Caden Proctor's a pretty dang tall guy too, and he beat him pretty well. What else?
Yeah.
I want to just I try to cover my bases with things that are bad as well. Pad level is a little bit of an issue. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Hold on here. Undersized, and then late hands. So late hands was the issue. So if there's times that like he's not the guy getting the first touch when the block's coming through. So he's usually just a little bit behind, doesn't always get through, but he does shake off well, and then kind of ends up winning the rep sometimes. And then the final thing of concern is just durability. He's had a couple of times where he's injured. The one thing I do like, he has played through him, so there is a little bit of that Harold Landry in him that, hey, this shit ain't gonna stop me. I'm gonna keep playing until I can. But it's still those things do catch up with you over time. So just to see, and it's usually been his legs. So that's another kind of Harold Landry similarity as well. All in all, I do like R. Mason Thomas. and I wish I could say I don't like Gabe Akis, but I freaking love him too. So let's go ahead and make your case for our guy too.
Right. Well, I will say, that R. Mason Thomas stuff, like the production has been over 2 years. Not a lot of people in college beat Will Campbell, but R.
Yeah,
Mason Thomas got him for a sack. I actually have a picture of that play right here.
yeah, that's
Um,
I remember
there
that
we
pretty
are.
well.
That's the two of them lining up against each other right there, just head to
Yeah,
head. Their arms didn't actually even reach each other. It
fair
was
enough,
wild.
Yep.
No, it's look, Akis is sorry. R. Mason Thomas is just a guy to me who's like he wins with speed and
Mhm.
quickness, but then when he tested, he wasn't particularly fast or quick. And that worries me a little bit. Like the 4.67 40 is not that big a deal. What bothered me was the 1.63 split because for me, the 1.6 is the cutoff. Okay. Especially if you're going to be billed as a quick guy. Uh,
Mhm.
the 1.63 is just, it's disappointing and then at his size too, because he measured in at what was it like 240 and change.
Yeah,
I
240
don't have it right in
is
front
what
of
I
me for
think I
some
have written
reason.
down. I think it was 241, and he was borderline 6'1", 6'2". I didn't have an accurate measurement on mine. That was the one thing I didn't check was the combine measurement. But the last thing I saw was like teetering. I saw two conflicting things. He's rather 6'2" or he's 6'1". Let's find out real quick. See if I can get him on one.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it out. My computer's screwing me.
No, you're good, buddy. Let me see what I got here. Combine profile. Let's see what exactly they measured him at. But also keep in mind too, combine measurements have been pretty awful the last 3 years.
They've
There's
been
been
weird, man.
a
It's
lot
like,
of
dude,
weird
you
stuff with
literally
Army.
have one job. This is the
So
ultimate. Like, you have one job. Stop screwing it up, dude.
yeah, I don't understand who's playing politics out there and that's keeping that job. But that's something. No, the combine measurements exact 6'2", 241, 31 5/8 inch arms, and uh 8 inch or yeah, what is it, 8 and 7/8 inches hands. So I mean,
See, that's another
who's
thing. I hate the small hands.
sure.
Dude, the small hands drive me up the wall. Small hands are like a fake big guy to me. It's like you're like I don't like that. The small hands bother me.
I'm trying to remember. There's a guy last year that also had small hands as a defender, and he like. So I'm blanking on. I'm so focused on this class right now. There was another guy that was out that was an edge last year that he had smaller hands
Yeah.
too. Some people had an issue on it, but whatever. It might come back to me. I might even just
I
message
mean,
you
I'm
about it.
not saying you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I'm not saying you can't be successful because you have smaller hands or whatever. It's just a red
sure.
flag to me that bothers me, and it's unique to me, and I get that. It's my weird little quirk, and it is what it is. But listen, when you want to talk about production, okay, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk about Gabe Akis, and you want to talk about multi-year production. Again, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk about Gabe Akis because you go back to 2023 when he had 4 sacks. You can go back to 2024 when he had 8 sacks, or you could go back to last year when he had 11. This is a guy who's had like 27, I think, at his career college sacks. We saw him rack up 2 against Northwestern, and this took me longer than it probably should have, mostly because I am technologically retarded in my old age. But I managed to cut this video up right here. Oh, see, look, it's ending as I'm awesome. Nice. All right. Let's see. That's Caleb Tiernan there at left tackle. And again, it goes right around him, takes the quarterback down. That was one of 2 sacks in that game for Gabe Akis. Look, he's effective in the pass rush game. I think he's good in the run defense game also. Not great, but he's not a liability. He's solid. This is a kid who you don't have any real questions about size. He did come in at a different size at the combine than he's listed. He was listed 6'3", 275, and his combine size was 6'4", 260. So little smaller than we thought, which is I was actually kind of late to the party on Akos because I was working my way from the smaller pass rushers up because I knew that's
Mhm.
kind of what we preferred. And then we brought in Draymond Jones, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can start looking at some of these guys in the 260s too.
Sure.
And Akis really just caught my eye. Like he's got a motor that never quits too. He plays through the whistle. Long 33-inch inch arms, 10-inch hands, those big old mitts. I like that. Put up 30 reps on the bench. And he's got the size, he's got the power. You see the explosion, and he plays with his hand down and in his hand up. So he's
Yeah.
versatile in that way that I just don't see. Like our Mason Thomas is not going to put his hand on the ground and like move in the NFL at all. But Gabe Akis probably can. So I could see him in kind of a similar Draymond Jones type of role behind him, you know?
Yeah, I think either or. One quick note I wanted to say on Gabe Akis was, uh, I absolutely love the film junkie out of him because he's a two sport athlete. He went from wrestling to football, and to be better at football, got himself in the film room, and he just stayed in there and he figured out every single guy. Every time he's about to play somebody, he's in the film room. He's locked in. He's watching every single movement they make, rep after rep after rep after rep after rep, and he just comes in with an excellent game plan, immediately takes that to the field for practice, and then just works with pretty much their rather the O line coach or somebody's like watching the film with him. So he's basically immediately just do it like taking on the exact blocking assignment that he's expected to face. I think it's pretty cool how much he locks in and does it. Great, both of these guys are great locker room leaders, rah rah guys. I did want to say there was one note I did forget to mention on Mason Thomas. He does have the fastest get off. Like when he's on the line, if you watch him, just watch him hand planted in the ground, dude's immediate speed, quickest get off, dude. It's awesome. So if you get
Yeah,
time
it's
later
just
on,
weird it didn't translate in the workouts.
yeah. So he also had a procedure done. He missed the Senior Bowl because he had a procedure, but he was able to make the combine. I think I don't know if he had a knee scope or something was done. I don't know, that stuff wasn't really unfortunately disclosed. He had some sort of procedure done, caused him to miss the Senior Bowl, and then I don't know if
Man,
he
he
just
really does sound like Harold Landry.
should have sat it out. I think personally, I hate to say it because I don't really like want it to kind of be like one of those things, coulda, shoulda. But
Yeah.
if he sat it out, I think we'd probably be looking at him a little bit better in some regards instead of testing. So
Yeah, that makes sense too. I mean, certainly some of those testing numbers can, sometimes they don't help you. sometimes,
no, no,
sometimes they're not a good reflection of what you're seeing on the field too. And look,
no,
I've openly said it too. There are many examples of dudes that like go out there, blow up the combine, like run crazy fast or whatever, but they just don't play crazy fast. It's not always perfectly translatable. That's for sure.
and then you
Uh,
got a case Booty who has two broken ankles or whatever the heck he had, runs this god awful 40 time, falls in the sixth round, and then he ends up being an okay player.
yeah.
But had he just not tested on those ankles, he wouldn't have fallen to the Patriots, and he also wouldn't have had a good career had it not worked out the way it did. Could have been a second or third rounder, but never
Yeah,
know.
no, that's very true. Well, listen, speaking of guys who are probably ceiling of a second or third rounder, we've got a trio of tight ends to talk about now. Now, Oscar Delp has been all the rage of New England sports radio waves over the past couple of weeks as some of the local guys have kind of fallen in love with him and talked him up a great deal. I've talked about him a few times on this program. Um, the one that really stuck with me was kind of the Jimmy Liao episode, who Jimmy Liao, MD, Detroit Lions writer, podcaster, etc., came on this show and we talked about some of the medical concerns. And Oscar Delp was one of the guys we talked about, and um, Jimmy talked about his concerns with the fact that, like we talked about, look, it's very cool, right? He's very tough, and that's badass, and I love it. Okay, don't get me wrong. Like I'm the ultimate dude who's like, yeah, just play through it. I never go to the doctor. Like I don't believe, like I, I'm not a guy who's like wary about that sort of thing. But at the same time, from an outsider perspective, sometimes tough ends in a very short career. And we talked about just concerns about Delp with like, okay, he played on that broken foot all year, but that also means that broken foot hasn't healed for a year.
Right.
So is he going to have to really seriously change some of the things he's doing? Can he? Does he have the ability, like the self restraint, to stop himself from going 150 miles an hour every day and let that thing heal for 6 weeks? Is he going to have to have surgery, and how is he going to bounce back from that? I think there's just a number of kind of red flags about that situation medically that people are overlooking and not really considering. The athlete is great, the production obviously not there. Clint Goss, who's a again another real good draft analyst, but a Georgia guy, came on yesterday and talked about the production and how Georgia, under this new offensive coordinator, whose name I don't recall, um, has really
Bo,
dropped off usage of the tight end.
I can't remember the guys. It was rather Boba or because I know it was Munkin was the previous guy, right?
Right, and
Munkin,
that's what he had said since Monken left, that basically the tight end usage at Georgia has completely fallen off a cliff, and, like, in the past, it had been a place to go when you were a tight end, and so it's kinda still got that rep, but the reality of when you get there is they barely throw you the ball, and, so the production, I understand that, but I still have the questions about the injury concerns and the red flags there.
yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. My main issue is just I made this comment to somebody and I said, when you look at his athleticism and you look at where he's at when it comes to his production, this is kind of like the JJ McCarthy of tight ends. JJ McCarthy, literally, there were games where he would only have 15 passes, like 15 pass attempts an entire game, or the next game be 20 pass attempts, and you're running in these small sample sizes, and you're going off of, okay, he was really freaking good on these 4 plays that out of the 20 passes he made. So there's something there to him. So you get kind of stuck in this idea of what could be, and I'm just in a place for us where we did not re-sign Austin Hooper. So that means Hunter Henry's the guy. So if we do take Oscar Delp, what if the foot situation, like you said, is gonna affect him into the season? Because does he need to have an operation done? That where's he at with the foot? A lot of questions, like you said there. But then too, like, is he going to be a reliable catcher? Because there's a lot of times where he gets thrown balls up in the middle, and he's had some drop issues. He's a very good blocker, but we just signed a blocking tight end. So, and
Yeah.
Julian Hill. So it's kind of like, is this the kind of guy we need? Are we just taking a guy for what could be when we have guys that aren't even featured on here and Royer, Jolly that have shown the production? And I'd rather see that be a Hooper replacement and possibly the Hunter Henry successor. So that's kind of where I sit with him.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a world where Delp, if he can remain healthy and get that foot healed up and continue, playing well and play in more tight end friendly, more pass heavy system. I mean, I forget the specific number that Clint talked about on yesterday's episode, but he said something like the top receiver in Georgia had about 67, I think 65 receptions. The second leading receiver at Georgia had 27.
Right.
So it was like such a fall off, and they just didn't use the passing game at all, really. So
Right.
I understand that. And I do think that, like, athletically and in terms of skills and stuff, he could be one of those rare tight ends that gives you blocking and receiving. And so that's what I like about him. And it's also what I like about the next guy here, Sam Roush, because I think Roush is a similar situation in that you didn't see a lot of pass game production out of Roush at Stanford. And the simple fact of the matter is, it's not about scheme at Stanford. It's about the fact that his quarterback sucks. And, his quarterback is not good at football, which is a problem when you're a guy who's a pass catcher. Okay, if your quarterback sucks at throwing the ball, it's going to be rough for you to catch it. And I think we saw down at the Senior Bowl. Now, I heard he did have a few drops, and that was a little bit of an issue. But I think in the first 2 days, we saw at practice some good hands, reasonably reliable hands. And he's a big guy, big hands, big soft hands, big body. The one question with him is this historically short. And he does have a historically short, like small catch radius for a tight end. His even for his size, his arms are rather short. I think they're like 32 inches. Let me pull them up real quick. Yeah, 30 and 5/8 inches arms. Now, for a guy that's 6'6", 267, to have arms that are barely 30 and a half inches long is just that it's wildly short. The wingspan just over 76 inches. So that makes for a small catch radius. And you got to have a good quarterback to hit that guy. Fortunately, we do have a good quarterback. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you just said there with Roush, and I think he feels like he can kind of do it all. He does have the blocking ability. He does have. I think he's shown a lot more consistency and not to keep crapping on Delp, like I said, it's just more of a thing where like he even with a worse quarterback was able to make stuff happen. I think there is a little bit of concerns with some drops. He did have some really noticeable drops and ball tracking were some issues here with Roush. But other than that, man, like when he gets the ball in his hands, it's what he does after the fact. He just turns into a running back, like a big ass running back that just makes some big plays happen. And that's the type of stuff you really do enjoy when we're talking trying to get playmakers. A lot of what I go off of is what these guys tell me, like Wolf and Frable, what they tell me at the combine. If we're looking for playmakers, this is a guy that can do it. And definitely going into the next guy, I'll have the same sentiment. But he's a guy that I would feel very happy and content with taking because I know there's going to be some production there and a lot of untapped potential. There's a little bit of some concerns, like you said, with the catch radius. But if there's a guy that I think can work with the catch radius, but also would benefit having a big catch radius, it is Drake May, and working with Sam Roush would be very beneficial for either of these guys. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, while we talked about like, yeah, Georgia offense not geared towards passing, et cetera, second leading receiver at like 20 something receptions. Sam Roush was the second leading receiver at Stanford. He had 49 receptions for 545 yards, an average of 11.1, with two touchdowns, which, two touchdowns is not a lot, but he was the second leading receiver in touchdowns in Stanford also. Okay. Again, garbage quarterback play. You're talking 14 touchdowns the entire season. Sam Roush had two of those. The leading receiver there was Williams, had six. So, and 749 yards. So it's like, again, Sam Roush's production within the offense, all right, 50 receptions out of 224 receptions made by the whole team. Like he has basically 20% of the offensive passing production at Stanford. That's a pretty significant pass game share for a tight end at any level, to be honest. And I think he's a very solid player. And I think he's proven himself to be a good blocker. He's certainly got the size, muscle, frame for it. The arms are going to be that they'll show up as a little bit of an issue in the blocking game as well. Um, but I think that he's going to be serviceable there, and he could be. I don't think he'll ever be like a superstar tight end number one because I do think he has those physical limitations. But I think he could be a very solid tight end too. I mean, Austin Hooper, you just mentioned him, right? Austin Hooper was never a superstar, but he was solid throughout his career, and he was a guy who could contribute a little bit on both sides of the blocking and passing. So Sam Roush, same sort of player, I think.
And it's a great comp is the Atlanta Falcons era Austin Hooper, where it was like you draft that guy on your fantasy team, somehow, some way, you've got a top five fantasy tight end because he just was the goal line guy. Like you needed him in the red zone. He got those touchdowns and production out for you. So that's a pretty fair comp for us, honestly. I definitely wouldn't hate having the second coming of Austin Hooper. That'd be great. So
Yeah. Now, this next guy, I mean, that we're going to talk about, look, he had 70, completely opposite, completely different. tight end than the first two. Okay. He had 74 receptions, 727 yards, and 6 touchdowns in a down year. Because in
Yeah,
2024, he had 94 receptions, 839 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Okay, so over the course of 2 years, you're talking about north of 160 receptions, north of 1,550 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That is solid, consistent production over a 2 year span, which is really kind of what you want to see. Like sometimes I'm wary of some of these college guys that come along and they've been playing 4, 5, 6 years and they pop off in their final year and they're a little older and they're a little like it's just questionable. You could get lucky for like a 12, 13 game run, but you do this 2 years in a row. I, now I'm sold. Okay. Now I know that that's your skill set and that's just what you do is you go out there, you make catches, you score touchdowns, and you open up things in the passing game for your offense. So I know you're a big fan of Cozy All. Tell us all about why you like him.
dude. I first saw him in the summer, and just looking back at some guys that like should potentially be entering this draft class. Obviously, I saw his size, and learning about, oh, he's going from Ball State to Houston. Or well, he was initially going from Ball State to Wisconsin. Had an issue with the coaches there. Some speculate it was blocking. I've heard others that are kind of more in his camp that said that it was more so he's not going to get the role he's in opportunities that he's going to get at Houston, which would still benefit him more. So he made the leap to Houston. Whatever the story is, he ended up at Houston, and going from a completely different offense to what he had at Ball State, took the shot knowing they're going to utilize him. You're going to help us at least get some good games and help expand our offense. He obviously jumped at the chance, went to Houston, and had an outstanding productive year. Now, these passes that he caught, I saw like somebody had speculated saying, and this is what happens when you don't watch film or check out these guys or just stat nitpick, saying, oh, 74 catches, it's probably a bunch of dump offs. It's not. He was a lot of it's intermediate. Like he's intermediate, like 10, 15-yard passes, going to even 25, 30-yard passes. He's all over the field, expanding, and it's even what he does after the catch too. He is tough to bring down. He is all bit of that 240. Now he was 250 entering the combine. He's putting on weight to be even more physical at the next level. The main thing people complain about was his blocking, and that even goes back to the Wisconsin exit. Was well, he can't block. That's why, and he can't play in line. And I hear all these excuses, but when you turn on his tape, there's numerous times he was in line. There's numerous times that he's doing fake blocks, and then he pushes out, and then he goes out for a route. He does a lot of disguise stuff like that. And then when he does actually block, it's not that bad. Like it's like just what I'd see out of Hunter Henry. It's not really that like he's not going to knock these guys into the dirt, but he's going to at least try to make a good lane for the running back that or whatever is needed out of it. So there's a lot to like about him. He's a really good kid, real smart. One of the first guys I scouted, and I think like if there's a guy based off of how Drake May passes the football to his tight ends, this is the guy that I think would excel the most in our offense and be a very, very popular target for Drake May. He likes these guys that are intermediate, reliable, contested catching guys in that spot because we saw it all over Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper's tape with him, and even saw it with Bryson Nesbitt at UNC. He likes these athletic tight ends. Get him an athletic tight end with size, reliable catcher. Like I freaking love this guy, and it drives me nuts that nobody's on him. So if I have to be the guy leading the Kozio Express, I'm gonna freaking do it. I really hope these guys take.
Um, yeah. Now, do you know kind of like how his combine measurements turned out? What was his arm length,
Yes,
hand size, all that? I don't have that in front of me.
you were fine. I got you. Because I think he did come down to 6'6", but it's like borderline. Hold on one second. Why is this being slow?
Oh, I got him. All right, 6, 6.5,
Yeah.
247,
Yep.
33 and 3/4 inch arms, and
Or
9 3/4 inch hands, and 80, almost 81 inch wingspan.
what was his 40 time? Did he end up running that?
So
I
very
think it was like
nice. Oh, I didn't check that.
the
Probably
com
should have. 4.7.
4.7. Okay, I missed. So unfortunately, even though I'm a draft guy, I
Yep.
missed the combine. It was baby time for me. I'm a new dad, so unfortunately I didn't get to catch any of the combine stuff. So I am kind of recovering from getting all my information.
Congratulations, by the way.
I appreciate it. So I am a little late to the game of having everybody's exact stuff, but in terms of what I saw leading up to the combine, I'm going off of what at least I'm pretty aware of. So no, 4.7 for him, that checks out. He also, I did want to note he did play through an injury from week 2 on, so 74 catches while playing through an injury that he sustained like week 2 or week 3. That's off of the top of my dome, but he did suffer an injury early on in his calf, played through it the entire season.
Okay. Nice,
So
yeah, and I mean, he's definitely got that. I mean, that wide catch radius, the tall body. He also had a vertical. I think it was 36 and a half that I just saw. So you got the long arms, you got the tall vert. You're tall yourself. Like that's a huge catch radius, a huge help to a young quarterback, especially down in the red zone where we've struggled
yeah,
to really finish on scoring drives and put the ball over the line. A guy like Tanner Koziol, I mean, he's a red zone cheat code, and that's exactly what you need for a team like we have. Um, Next set of players that we're going to talk about, this is more of like a probably fourth, fifth round type of discussion for me. Now, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. All right. For me, Lander Barton's probably a fifth round guy. Now, Kyle Lewis, probably more of like a third or fourth round guy. All the mocks I do have him go about 120 ish, something in that neighborhood. I'm not sure where he ends up going, but I think these guys are interesting because they kind of do a little bit of the same stuff, but they just do it differently.
yes,
Lander Barton's my guy, and I guess I'll kick things off with him. He's a guy that I was interested early in the process, right? He's big, long frame, like 6'5", 240-ish, long arms, just really built well to like kind of get in the way and break up passing lanes and in the zone passing game. He's got good man coverage instincts. He comes from a football family, and you see that see on his chest. He's a leader. He's a locker room guy. He's a football IQ guy. Now, drawbacks, I've talked about him here before. I wish this dude had a little bit more fire under him. I wish he trusted in his instincts a little bit. I always feel like when he's like covering ball carriers, like when he's covering a guy in the pass game, I feel like he stays with him really well. But when he's covering a ball carrier, he often it's either that he's taking a poor angle or he doesn't trust his own athleticism to be able to close and make that tackle. And so he'll just continue to readjust and readjust until he ends up chasing this dude down the field when he had no busy. He should have tackled him 5 yards ago, but he's just not aggressive enough. And he doesn't have enough of that. Like, I honestly, I think it's aggression. I honestly just wonder if he's like a little too nice to do a job that involves hitting people for most of it. But it's like because you see him in pass rush, you're never going to get anything out of him in pass rush, right? Which there's no reason for it. He's got the body, he's got the size, he's got the athleticism. He could get up in there, and when he does get close to the quarterback, he's literally just running at him. He's not putting his hands up. He's not, yelling at him. He's not whatever. He's not anything. He's not trying to, he's just kind of going through the motions sometimes. And I just wish he played sometimes a little more like passion, a little more, hair on fire, those types of guys. And I mean, like Kyle Lewis, none of those problems, right?
no, not at all. Kyle Lewis, bro, he is my favorite player in this draft class, and I I think I stumbled across him pretty much knowing that we seriously need some help in coverage, especially in the middle of the field. And I like Christian Ellis. I wasn't totally sold on how reliable is he going to be tracking linebackers. How reliable is he going to be? And of course, Spillane as well. He's more like front and center, like lock the middle down kind of thing. I just kind of felt like we're going to need somebody that's going to be able to be a capable receiving linebacker. And what I stumbled across is Kyle Lewis, who is absolutely the best coverage linebacker in this draft class. I think he's better than Jacob Rodriguez. I know this is freaking crazy. I think he plays with as much intensity, with as much heart. Super intelligent film junkie guy, locker room leader, and I really think the best thing about him, wherever the frick you need him. If you need him to set edge, he's small, he's 6 foot, but he's going to set the edge and he's going to find a way to make it freaking happen. You need him to cover deep safety, throw him back there. I'm going to figure it out, dude. I'll go ahead and do it. Wherever you needed him, nickel, he plays everywhere. It's a very Fred Warnery kind of vibe that I really like everything that he brings to the table. The other thing, just a quick note, I know it's kind of like, oh, it's cool and all talking personalities and stuff. The main thing I love is loyalty when it comes to some players, especially in this day and age with NIL. He had so many teams under the table hitting him up saying, "Hey, dude, like hit the portal, like we're gonna treat you, we're gonna get you taken care of." He said, "You guys had the chance to get me when Pitt was the only school that offered me anything." That's goddamn loyalty. Or pardon me, that's dang loyalty. So I mean, that guy's pretty freaking like, I'm gonna stick with the team that believes in me. We draft him. This guy's gonna want to be a career Patriot. So that's kind of where I stand with him. I think he's the heart. He can be a heart of a team, heart of a defense, and be a true leader that like we definitely can have for the future. Absolutely love this freaking kid. If you haven't checked him out, I just definitely the 24 tape is a lot more explosive. He had to miss 2 games because of a concussion that he sustained, but sustained by his own teammate off of an edge block. But he is a damn good player, and like I said, if anybody has not checked out Kyle Lewis, he is absolutely worth a watch and somebody I hope we
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, I mean, you could even just go back and watch his Senior Bowl practices. I mean, those were incredibly impressive. He was covering those kind of screen routes to running backs and so forth. And this guy was not only like, it's just the way that the drills are kind of situated there to the benefit of the offense. Okay, the
Yeah,
running back should be able to make the catch. The goal of the linebacker is essentially to kind of like force him out of bounds. It's not even really to make a play on the ball, technically. Like, I mean, right? That's the optimal result is make a play on the ball, obviously. But just the way that the drill is designed, that's not going to happen most of the time. And yet Kyle Lewis made multiple interceptions and was making plays on the ball on almost every single play. He was absolutely shutting down that drill. I think that this was an interesting discussion. The reason I liked having these two players kind of opposite each other in this discussion, despite the fact I do, like I said at the start, think that there's a difference in draft range. And so I think number one, you're talking about opportunity cost, right? Um, do we want to get like if we want to get a wide receiver in the third round, well, then we can't draft Kyle Lewis in the third round.
right.
Um, Whereas I think Lander Barton's more of a fifth, maybe even around six pick. But I also think just in terms of the player that they are, like if you were looking at them like you put them together on like a Madden game or something, because Lander Barton, he's the big, long, 6'5", 32.25 inch arms, just a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, 240-ish pounds. Whereas Kyle Lewis, these are his measurements where he's at, between 6 foot and 6'1", 225, let's say, and be nice. The 4.53 is faster. He's quicker, but the shorter arms, just a smaller body. And it's an interesting discussion to me because there's just such a juxtaposition between these two guys as far as the archetype of player that they are and kind of where do you want to go. And I kept going towards tall guys, and the reason is I watched us play Atlanta. Okay. That's 100% the reason where Atlanta said, you know what? We're going to take Drake London, our tall, good receiver. We're going to put him in the slot, and he is just going to go dunk in Marcus Jones's face all game long. And Marcus Jones is great. He's good. He's wonderful. He's the size of a third grader, and he can't defend Drake London. And that's what kept going in my mind. It's like, dude, I want a dude who's like 6'4, 6'5, who can just come in and play those big slots. Okay. And it's like, it's just, I have a hard time seeing with a guy that's too small to play them.
Sure,
It's troublesome. And it's like, listen, here on this show, we love big slots.
sure.
Okay. But they're a pain in the ass to defend when you've got a 5'8" slot cornerback.
Yes. So my only thing with Kyle Lewis is I even love this idea further after we played the Seahawks. Was their use of three safety sets. You can borderline, avoid even drafting a safety and have Kyle Lewis be your safety because at the pro day for Pitt, he did both linebacker, did probably like 30 minutes of linebacker stuff, then did another 30 minutes doing safety, like just to prove I've got the stamina to do both sets of drills, show you whatever the heck you need out of me. And if you want me to be a safety, I'll be your safety. If you want me to be linebacker, I'll be your linebacker. But I'll also do whatever the hell else you need me to do. And so, yes, he's smaller, but like I said, I don't. When you watch him on tape, he plays so much bigger than he is. I was even surprised to find out. I thought he was 6'2" for like 2 months, and then I actually looked at his actual measurements. I'm like, oh crap, okay, he's 6'1", and then he turns out he was 5'11" at the Senior Bowl. Then he's 6 foot at the combine, and nobody freaking knows anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just like the guy a lot. I think he's awesome, great heart, and Lander Barton as well. I really enjoyed a lot of what I saw at him too. Tough, physical, great freaking player. Whoever we would get, I mean, we just need the linebacker depth for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we just what we need is that coverage guy. We need that coverage guy that can cover a tight end, that can cover a big slot receiver. Not necessarily a guy who's going to cover like a little jitterbug type of receiver, right? We're not going to have the guy covering like the Pop Douglases of the world. But when you line up a dude like Mac Hollins in the slot or something like that, obviously not Mac Hollins because he's on our team. We're not going to be playing against him. But like when you line up a dude of that size in the slot and he's able to just kind of body out Marcus Jones, you need an answer to that. And I think that you're right that a lot of teams are going to be trying to, look, the NFL is a copycat league. It has been a copycat league my entire life. Okay. Every time someone comes up with something that works, the rest of the team tries to emulate it. And we've seen it sweep through the league in various stages. The one I remember the most is the Wildcat, right? The Wildcat thing was a thing for a minute to the point that Tim Tebow got drafted in the first friggin' round, where they started thinking Wildcat was an actual quarterback style. The,
Uh, what was the West Virginia quarterback that got he got drafted by the Dolphins and then he got knocked the heck out by the Steelers and that was the last time you ever saw him again.
oh wait,
Pat from West Virginia was Pat Young. Or am I getting? He's a West Virginia legend. He was one of the best guys to play for.
Pat
I'm
White,
sorry,
Pat White,
Pat White. Yep. Pat White. So yeah, Pat White was a
yeah.
Dolphins quarterback. They were trying to emulate. He might be the future. He had this great college career. Throw him out in the Wildcat, and I think Ryan Clark or Ian Ike Taylor knocked him the frick out, and that was the last time you ever saw him hit a football field. I think. So that
Yep.
was a cup of coffee in the NFL for the Wildcat and unfortunately Pat White. But
Well, yeah, and I mean, like we're gonna see a lot of that, and I think whoever drafts Sonny Styles this year is really gonna be kind of the leader on that because that's the dude that really profiles the same way as E-Man Worry. Like both of those E-Man Worry people might not remember, or may not have been paying attention. Showed up to the combine last year and blew it up. Like we're talking 9.99 RAS or 10.0 RAS, something ridiculous. He set several records. He's still the first in terms of like safeties to ever do X, Y, and Z or whatever. Like the dude is a friggin' athlete. safety slash corner slash linebacker in terms of usage in Seattle. Um, Tell me I'm not describing Sonny Styles, ex safety, current linebacker. Like he's not a corner, but that's fine. Like Eman Worry was a raw safety coming in too. It was there was a lot of talk about like, well, yeah, he's a gym rat and an athlete, but like he's not much of a football player, that sort of thing. And it really turned into very different. I mean, so you've got Sonny Styles that, and I think that there are a couple other guys in this draft that you're going to see people think about taking a chance like that on. And I talk about guys like the Washington State cornerbacks, Ephesians Prysock and Takario Davis. This is the sort of role that I like a guy like Ephesians Prysock, maybe to like, you look at him and it's hard to not go like, dude, I could turn you into a lot more than just a corner. Okay. You're 6'4, 220, rocked up. You look like you just left the gym bench pressing friggin' God knows what, right? The dude is he's built like a friggin' Greek god statue, okay? 6'4, 220, long arms, good size hands. Like he can play a little man, he can play a little zone. He's gonna need some coaching up, sure. But listen, that's why we're gonna get him in like the fifth round. So I like that big corner that it's like, man, we could play around a little bit with you in the slot and see how we like it. What do you think about these guys? Do you think these guys are ultimately like just strictly a boundary corner, or do you think that maybe they get a little creative?
It's freaking ironic that, and I never picked this up with Price Stock. I learned more about him in like November. I thought it was NFL Stock Exchange was starting to really heat up and mentioned him a couple times. So I was like, all right, and so I mainly watched film, look at size and all that stuff later on. Both these guys 6'4" is freaking nuts. So Price Stock's probably a lot the better build of the bunch. Whereas Takario, he's going to be at a 194, if I'm not mistaken here.
It's like
Let's just say
Washington has a type, huh? You got
yeah,
like 6'4", 200-pound cornerbacks. Then look at the wide receiver they're putting out, Denzel Boston. The same friggin' thing, just on the other side of the ball.
and both of these guys, man, and they're both man zone versatile. Sicario, he had 4.41 speed. He can run defend as well. He has no problem chasing after the running back. He had 20 pass breakups. I preferred him more in man coverage. I felt like some of the zone stuff I saw of him, because he went from Arizona to Washington. So I remember a lot of his Arizona stuff. I felt like he got beat more doing zone. So I think him having the flexibility to do man and zone here in Washington, he shined a lot more. It definitely looked better at his time in Washington. But I just don't think the football gods align to helping either of these guys really boost their stock, even though they have great size. He had Takario. He had penalty
Yeah.
issues. Is the big thing. He had like 20 penalties in his career. Like, that's kind of, or no, maybe not career. Was it a career or 2 seasons? Is what I read. He's got some issues with penalties because he's so physical. He's locking you in, and you're gonna run into that issue with him. Kind of like Carlton Davis. You just have these types of guys that have that type of issue. So I think he'd be good. You know, replacing a Davis with a Davis. Wouldn't hate it because he's gonna be on the younger side. He's gonna give you that same type of production. But in the meantime, hey, we're gonna have a situation we play a Drake London. I'm even trying to think of guys we're gonna end up playing this year that we're gonna run into these situations. They're using a big slot as well. It wouldn't hurt to have a guy that can have that flexibility in either of these guys to just throw out there and shut out the middle. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I think actually, I do think there's a number of kind of like big corners in this draft. Guys who are going to be going a little bit earlier, like a Trey Dance Stukes, who's got good
yeah,
size on him and going to be able to play. Julian Neal got good size, really good press man corner. To put some of the numbers to Ephesians Prysock, by the way, you mentioned the 4.47 for Takario Davis. Ephesians Prysock ran a 4.45 40 at the combine. He had a 157 split, which is fairly elite in terms of the 10-yard splits. 39-inch vertical jump, that's 85th percentile for cornerbacks. 10'4" broad jump. And at the pro day in Washington, he did the 3 cone and the 20-yard shuttle with a 6.82 on the 3 cone, 4.15 on the 20-yard. Both were reasonable, very respectable numbers. The height, 6'3.5", 97th percentile for cornerbacks, 196 in weight. You want to see him get that up, but I'm assuming he's kind of dropped it down for the combine anyway and might really play at like 205. 33 and an eighth inch arms. That's 93rd percentile for corners. And the wingspan, 80 and a half inches, 96th percentile. So, like, this is a guy who, he's a grown man at corner. Okay. He's ready to get out there. He's not going to be intimidated by anybody lining up across from him. He's going to need some coaching up. Yeah. But like, I've been on this soapbox for probably about a month now, where it's like I really felt like everybody was overlooking cornerback three as kind of a screaming need for the Patriots. 2 out of 3 losses last year came while Gonzalez was sidelined. We struggled to really find like a third cornerback. And look, we got lucky with Carlton Davis. He played the whole year, but that was the first time in his 8-year career that he played an entire season.
How many
7 years before that tells us this dude's not going to finish the season next year. We need a plan at CB3. So
have
I
you
think that needs to move up the priority chart a little bit here.
And if you think back with Carlton Davis as well, like how many times he left in the middle of the game this past year as well, it was like almost every other week. Like it's like, oh shoot, he's down. Is this it? Is this the injury? And somehow, some way, like he's back in the game. Like he just managed to play through it, and
Yep.
he played through the whole season. So I mean, kudos to him. We definitely
And
need more
can I
effectiveness.
just say something too that I feel like people kind of forgot because of the Houston game? Carlton Davis kind of sucked this year. He wasn't
Yeah,
great. He was disappointing. He was constantly getting beat. I mean, there were so many times throughout the year that I was like, "Oh God, why?" He gave it up again. Come on, like it was just over and over and over. He was the weak point amongst the top 3 cornerbacks in our group. If you were going Gonzo, CD, and Jones, the one game with Jones was Drake London. It's not his fault that Drake London's 9 feet tall. Like,
right,
but CD should have been able to make a lot of the plays that he wasn't making. Gonzo, he dropped the ball a few times, but I always felt like it was in times when you weren't expecting. Like
right.
AD Mitchell burned him once, and it was like, oh shit, AD Mitchell has that? Oh,
Guy from
okay, cool. And then he shut him down for the rest of the game. Or like the
random guy
opening
from the bank.
play with Denver,
Mhm.
when Mims burned him and got him deep. And it was like, oh, the quarterback's gonna make that play. Okay, cool. Now he's back with the program, and it didn't happen again. But it was almost like the couple times he did get beat, he was kind of like a little bit resting on his laurels, thinking like, oh, this guy isn't shit. He's not gonna beat me. And then someone checked him back in reality and was like, oh, okay, boom. And
Yeah.
and despite those couple like moments of relaxation, if you will, he was still one of the top corners in the league in terms of numbers and how you measure those things. So,
Yeah, and I did want to say with like the Gonzo, he also had the guy from the Bengals that like scored that touchdown on him, the most random receiver on the team that got that touchdown on Christian Gonzalez. Like that sucked. Like I mean, but like throughout, he's been our most reliable, and he really is a glue guy. When it comes to a guy, he's got to stay on. Like, and we know we're talking a top dog receiver. He's been effective his entire career. Carlton Davis, he's similar, man, and it's like when it's time to turn it on, he goes. But I think the other thing throughout the season was he came into camp injured, and it was a slow transition to get him where he needed to. And then I just don't know, like, if his injury was still lagging through the season for us or what happened. But it definitely was pretty not what you were expecting. But I also thought about it this way too. He is still a cornerback too. He is still, he's a very highly paid cornerback too. But he's not. It just would be better if he played what the contract is worth essentially. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, no, it's look, cornerbacks are getting a lot of money too, and the fact that he was healthy and the fact that he stepped up at the time that he did made two interceptions against Houston. He was really effective in the playoffs. Like, I don't want to shit all over Carlton Davis just because, but I just feel like it overshadows the fact that for 17 games he was a little bit of the weak link, and I damn near broke two TVs in my house because of him
Right.
not being able to cover dudes that he should have been able to cover. Now talking about combine numbers and players that we were excited about there. I was really excited about this dude throughout the process, Dylan Thieneman. Okay. This was one of my top guys early in the process. Now, I'm a bit of a guy who likes safeties. Okay. I was really, really high on Brian Branch a few years back. If people were listening to my podcast back when I was on Spotify, I loved Brian Branch. I thought he was a top 10 player in the class. He ended up going second round. And I was so frustrated by it. And then I saw Dylan Thieneman this year, and he kind of reminds me of him in terms of like he can do a little bit everything. And I expected him to be a guy who was a great football player, great safety, but maybe he just didn't test great. I thought he was going to go to the combine, and I was like, man, I'd be happy with like a 4.5, and just kind of like that. Like, show me you're a good enough athlete. This is a dude who went to the combine. He ran a 4.35 with a 1.52 10-yard split, jumped 41 inches in the vertical, 10.5 in the broad at over 200 pounds. All right. Now, he doesn't have the longest arms in the world, but I don't care. He's a safety. He doesn't have the biggest hands in the world, but he's 6 foot tall with 9-inch hands. It's big enough. Not super worried about that. It's not a big deal. He looked really fluid, very quick during position drills. And look, he's got a career full of great tape doing all kinds of shit at the safety position from Purdue, where he started from the second he walked onto the field as a freshman, to Oregon, where, like, honestly, his Purdue tape's a little better. Like a free range safety and so forth. In Oregon, they wanted him up in the box a little bit more. Maybe not so much his game, but he proved that he could do a little bit of everything. Okay. He's good. Man, oh, I wish he was there at 31. When we started this mock draft process, he was there at 31 all the time. People were talking about him as a second round pick. Then, they kind of caught fire a little bit. Then when he shows up and runs a 4.35, oh man, we're never getting this guy now. What the? So for me, this comparison here is more about, like, number one, Dylan Thieneman is a pipe dream for me. And
Right.
number two, uh, it's more about opportunity cost again, because say Dylan Thieneman is there, but say there's a tackle there or a wide receiver or an edge, and it's something we really need more of. Do you take Thieneman in the first, or do you take a guy like a Zakee Wheatley in like the fifth or sixth round or fourth round or wherever it is you can get him that's not at 31?
Right. And I mean, it was interesting because we brought in Emmanuel McNeil Warren. We also did bring in Zaki Wheatley as well. So it was cool that like it is an interest of a spot for us. And I also do wonder though too is like, are these also guys we're kind of scouting for who the Dolphins and Jets are probably leaning to take because they both need safety. I did have Dylan Thieneman in my big board. He was 24th out of 50, and I think he is. I think I he is the second safety. I only have two safeties in my entire top 50, and there were other guys there. I was initially banking that we were going to be re-signing Jalen Hawkins, so I removed a majority of the safeties, and this is all prior to free agency. This is all everything. So I do need to do some updates to my big board. Um, Being a new dad, I've not been able to get the time to, but I wrote in his leadership he displays to his teammates, his preparedness week in, week out, his play on
Yes.
the field showcases the caliber of player he truly is. And I think he'd be an amazing fit for us and someone our coaching staff can constantly rely on. He is an absolute Vrabel guy for how much effort he puts into everything, and somebody I would absolutely love to see us take. So Yeah, I mean that was in February,
Yeah.
where I'm thinking he could be an option for us if we went down. If there was a safety, we were to take at 31. I'm in agreement. That's a pipe dream. I don't think it's happening. I think he's probably going to be the second guy taken off the board, probably to the Vikings or something of that sort would be my guess. Just that's another area of need that they have. Zaki Wheatley, let's get into him real quick. Penn State, awful, awful freaking year for them. Um, he is more on the free safety side from a lot of what I see. He can play lineup anywhere. This is gonna be a little similar to like Kyle Lewis, but he's on the taller side. He's 6'3", 203. His ball tracking intensity lines up anywhere. He has a pass rush ability that really stand out. Like there's a lot of versatility to his game. You're seeing him knock dudes out of their shoes. He doesn't come up for a lot of big plays. It's kind of like what we had with like Jalen Hawkins, or well, actually even more Craig Woodson this year, where he's so freaking close to getting an interception, it just doesn't happen. But he's the main guy causing the pass breakups because of how intense he's playing, knocking the ball out of these guys' hands with his physicality. Really freaking good. But with his physicality, he's kind of an inconsistent tackler. He's willing to hit you, but that hit comes so quick that he's not even able to wrap the arms around them because he's just trying to knock the crap out of you. And then he did also have play action issues. So when he would line up, if you're hitting with a play action, he still believes the running back has the ball. That happened on a couple times in tape. This is my old notes for him, but he had a couple issues that like I would watch him get like assume almost every time play action's happening, it's a run. And I think how often are you really going to have him up there that it's going to be that big of a deal? But I did kind of find that a little funny. So other than that, he'd be a good option, especially if we're trying to do the three safety set idea. If because we have Byard, we can take Wheatley to be under Byard. It'd be a good idea for that investment. Or if somehow, some way we get Dylan Thieneman, like dude, that how freaking amazing would our secondary be? And even just our defense alone for having the talent up front we've got. Then
Oh
you
yeah.
throw these six, like, dude, like you're set, you're up in line to compete with Seattle for defense. Like if you can get an caliber athlete at Thieneman, and I think Wheatley's not that far off from it. He's pretty awesome himself. It's just I think in terms of Vrabel had a choice, like I'm sitting and looking at both of these guys and not even factoring in like the type of player, the type caliber intangibles is Thieneman, but hey, the investment that I can kick down the road and take to not have to take a safety so early would be Wheeler. So either or is a great option for us.
Yeah, I really liked like you talked about the Element in the film room, and like he's known for that. A dude who's first in, last out, like driving everybody, trying to get better himself, trying to get the team better. Like, and I just always like I thought about the all the talk about back in the day where Brady would kind of be playing off against Rodney Harrison, and they would have like that sort of friendly rivalry during practices. And it's like I want to find that guy, and I thought Dylan Thieneman would be that guy. Look, we've gone long here, and we've got to let this guy get to bed. Okay, he's got a baby that's going to wake him up 5 minutes after he lays his head on the pillow. So let's talk about these quarterbacks real quick, okay? Because honestly, we don't care. Drake May is going to be playing every snap for the next 10 years. None of these guys matter. But just in case they do, Haynes King, Talon Green, Joe, however we're saying his name, Fanano, whatever. And then who's that last
Sawyer,
guy?
Sawyer
Sawyer,
Robertson.
Sawyer Robertson. Yes. Sorry, drawing a blank on that. These are the four quarterbacks that we're talking about here. Now, I don't want to see us use anything more valuable than a sixth round pick on a quarterback. So for me, I think Talon Green's probably out of the mix. I think he'd be very interesting. Tall, 6'5, 6'6, great athlete, super fast, likes to bail out of the back of the pocket a lot. Not going to be able to do that in the NFL. You're going to have to teach him how to hang out in there and then run through the front if he wants to run, which he does. And then Haynes King, more like a Justin Fields type comp to me. Like the dude's a running back playing quarterback. And so I think that if anything, Haynes King would be like an interesting scout team quarterback where like if you're playing a super mobile quarterback or you want to really teach your linebackers how to like QB contain or QB spy a little bit, like that's a good guy, but I don't think he's like a real option to like play quarterback in the NFL at some point. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think he'd be good at gadget guy. His athleticism's off the charts. I think in terms of I wonder, is there any other positions he could play outside of what he's at? And I don't personally see it. I think he's just going to be kind of that Danny Etling style quarterback, if that's a fair comp. Like, and I don't, no disrespect to Danny Etling. There's a lot of limitations I'd be worried about with him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I mean,
and
this time of year, you've got two different types of quarterback prospects too, right? Because you've got the dudes who are like, "I'll do anything to get on the field. I don't care where they want me to play." And then you've got the dudes like Taylor Green who are like, "No, I'm a quarterback. I don't care if it takes me an hour and 47 minutes to throw a ball. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a ball and that's it." And it's like, all right, I understand both sides of that, but maybe you've got to open yourself up to some different options if your main skill is not your arm. You want to open yourself up to kind of being that offensive weapon for a creative coordinator.
yeah, and to just to piggyback off of this idea with Talon, and I think he's a phenomenal athlete. He showed out really well at the combine. Um, my line of thinking, if we were to take him, it's going to be a similar Joe Milton situation, and it's going to be a situation where we draft this guy, we're going to develop him, we're going to let him take over a couple well, if it's only going to end up being two preseason games, but we're going to somehow give you a shot to see him, even if that means we blow out a team, we throw him in for the fourth quarter and let him also tack on some points too. We're going to try to get this guy somehow to be an asset that we trade off. It's the Ron Wolf way. Elliot Wolf's dad did the same exact thing for years, where he would draft Matt Hasselbeck, for example, would draft the Matt Hasselbeck, make him look real freaking good. And then when Brett Favre goes down, which he did, Hasselbeck got a shot to shine. They shipped him off, and then he ended up being a damn good quarterback. Like, it was just an endless cycle that they kept doing, where they draft these quarterbacks, and I think that's going to be something that Elliott tries to take over as well. And I think he probably has Vrabel on board with it for him to go out and say that at the owners' meeting as well. Real quick on Fagnano, um, or Fagnano, however I've heard it pronounced three different times, three different ways. However, these guys at UConn, so somebody tell me what his freaking name is. But I watched a lot of Skyler Bell because I kept seeing his name come up, and Fagnano. The more I watched him, reminded me so much of Joe Flacco at University of Delaware, and I'm from Delaware, so I got to see a lot of the Joe Flacco days. And this had a lot. He's not Joe Flacco's size. He's not 6'6". He's 6'3". He's at 226. He's going to be a lot more on the athletic size, but like just the decision making, the accuracy in his throws. He just has a lot to his game, that there's something to him there that I weirdly enough watched a lot of the guys. I put him pretty freaking high. I think I had him as my fourth quarterback initially, and that was me thinking Garrett Nussmeier was awful, which I still kind of agree. That's me thinking a lot of these quarterbacks just it's not there. I'd say a team should really, and I'm really surprised that a lot of he didn't get that small school spike, and instead it's the North Dakota State guy. He's really awesome at his pocket awareness. He's got good accuracy, makes good reads. Decision making is awesome. Throwing on the run, he had some really good plays to Skyler Bell out there too. There are other receivers that he was getting involved. It wasn't just Skyler, but like a lot of the notable plays
Yeah.
from Skyler Bell, like on the money, great shots to him, setting him up for success. It was a really good combination they had. I just don't think he has like the deep, powerful arm. There's some shots that he can
Right.
do a deep shot, but that's probably like one or two that you're going to get out of the game. He could work in our offense. He could be a guy similar to Drake May for how they play closely. I just don't
Yeah.
know if he's going to be the sexy selling factor as like a Traylon Green or these other guys at the smaller schools. But he also could be Tommy DeVito's replacement too. Just a matter of what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the real drawback about Joe Fagnano, or however how you pronounce Joe Fagnano's last name, I think is directly related to how recently you've watched an episode of like The Sopranos or like maybe
Yeah,
Goodfellas or something. Because you need a little bit more like with your hands, like Fagnano.
I, I just
Um, but listen,
my
here's the thing
my
with Joe
maternity.
Fagnano is I'm going to be 45 this year, and I think he was in my graduating class. Okay, this is one of the guys who came in during who was drastically affected by COVID. Okay, so he's a seventh year senior who's 25 years old right now. Um, and so that's a bit of an issue. We saw him go down to the Shrine Bowl. He looked all right there. And what I like about Fagnano is that this guy knows the guys in the Connecticut jersey are on his team, okay? And he knows not to throw to the other team. All right, because 413 passing attempts this year, nearly 70% completion, but only one interception. That's nice. That's good. That's good throwing. And that's not like he wasn't like, Chuck down Charlie or whatever, where he was averaging 8.3 yards per throw. That was up from the year before. And it's the highest that he's averaged in his entire career outside his freshman year at Maine, playing for the Maine Black Bears, where he played for 4 years. So 8.3, that's a good yards per throw. It's not like he's not taking any risks. And again, like you said, Skylar Bell, really good wide receiver prospect. But another thing about Skylar Bell, very, very small target. Okay. He's short. He's like 5'10" and change. He's got very short arms. So he's very small catch radius. We talked about that earlier. You've got to be an accurate quarterback to hit a guy like that. And looks nearly 70% completion, one interception, and your top target has like 31 and a half inch arms. Like that's an accurate quarterback. That's a guy we're interested. I'd be interested in learning more about. Sawyer Robinson, another guy, great production in college, nearly 3,700 yards last year, 31 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, QBR of 70.1. He had some really good games. He had some games that were not so good. He's definitely going to be like round six, round seven, UDFA type of guy, but he's a guy who could potentially make a roster, or at very least, you know, uh, definitely be a practice squad quarterback that has a chance to step up in an emergency situation. Um, Tell us what you liked about Sawyer Robinson real quick before we get you out of here.
Yeah, and so Sawyer Robinson, I mainly came across him watching Michael Trigg, and I think ironically after Michael Trigg's a really damn good tight end, and he was on track to have like he basically would have been Sadiq Light had he not had the issue that he had with the athletic director. So briefly, there was a uniform issue. He wasn't allowed to wear something rather than armband or something of that sort. There was some kind of uniform policy that they had that he wasn't supposed to wear a specific thing. The athletic director physically grabbed him, allegedly. Physically, I need to say that in case I get sued too, but physically grabbed him and had uh, shouted at him in front of his teammates, tried to embarrass him, like, and tell him, like, there's no place for what he's doing in Baylor. Like, this isn't, like, tried to make an example out of him. And so, ironically, after that happened, Trigg's production shut down completely because he just didn't give a shit anymore. And then Sawyer Robinson, of course, kind of the same thing kind of happened to him too. So it felt like the whole entire locker room offensively, ironically, after that incident happened, kind of left a bad taste in a lot of players' mouth. And, I don't know. It just kind of felt like a weird situation. And his
Yeah.
production kind of fell off a little bit at the end. So there is something to him. He's definitely like a safe kind of like, you know, good, definite backup. I don't know how in terms of the depth chart you're going to want to put a guy like him in, but in terms of us, like shoot, he might end up developing into something decent, reliable, maybe like a Josh Dobbs 2.0 kind of thing. I just
Yeah.
I wonder I wonder if we brought him in for a visit, not necessarily for us to take a quarterback, but are we learning more about Michael Trigg in that situation and somebody that we could get as a late round steal? I don't know. I'm
Mm.
not sure if his athleticism kind of fits in, but he's somebody to kind of monitor and keep in mind of that. So
Yeah, and like so the bare bones of that situation that you referenced was AD Mac Rhodes had grabbed Trigg. He was mad about a gold colored undershirt that Trigg
yes,
was wearing. The rest of the team was wearing dark colored undershirts, like the long sleeve shirt that goes under. And Trigg was wearing gold colored, and apparently Mac Rhodes was not happy about that and decided to, do his best to screw his PR up and
yeah,
to make a bad decision there. Like, is this is the day and age you really got to kind of treat these kids with a little bit more kid gloves. All right, listen, we're gonna go to rapid fire. Okay, we've got paper waves, Tyler, sitting here, ready to make a few snap judgments. Three, real quick before we get you out of here. I want to know quickly, like 10-second or 15-second answer. One, even just a name, one must have in this draft.
Kyle Lewis, linebacker Pitt.
Okay. One
I think he's
steal, a guy that you could get late on day three that is going to outperform that draft position.
Tanner Koziel,
Okay. And one guy that you think we should avoid.
Zion Young, PWI 2 months before the combine, immature, not a good
Okay.
attitude,
Are you
not
worried
the guy.
him and Todd Downing are going to try to party together?
Maybe a little.
Listen, we need a designated driver for those two. That's all I know. Okay. That's it. I know that Mike Rabel doesn't care about that sort of shit, but I get it. All right. New England is boring.
Good.
Yeah, listen, it's boring. There's not a lot to do. Okay. If you're a drinker, you might be tempted to drink. That's all I'm saying. I get it. All right. Listen, we've been at it for more than an hour and a half. It was a good time talking with you, Tyler. Thank you for making the time. I know you're up late. You got a sleeping baby, and we really appreciate having you. We're shooting this at night, by the way. We're going to air this in the morning. But everybody, keep watching, tune in, have a great weekend, like, subscribe, go check out Tyler's X account at Paperwaves DE. He posts a lot of stuff there, his rankings, some write-ups and so forth. It's good stuff, a lot of good conversation. Tyler, anything you want to say before I get out of here?
Definitely. I'm very thankful for you having me on, Randy. It was awesome talking to you. I'm actually in the process of working on my next blog, which is going to be all about the day three guys. I think this class is a hell of a lot better than it's getting credit for. So downplayed because of the 2027 class. Let's give these day three guys some love. I'm going to have a list of maybe 15, 20 guys that I think deserve to be talked about in consideration for us in day three that deserve just as much praise as the guys you keep hearing about.
Hey, right on. Hey, you know what? We'd love to have you back so you can do just that. Talk about them if you want. So why don't we connect on X? We'll see how our schedules can align up. I know again, limited. You've got the job, you've got the baby, you've got all kinds of shit going on. But I can be pretty flexible, dude. And I'd like to have you back on to chat about those guys. So let's do it
Awesome.
sometime in the future. And maybe after the draft, we'll talk about what they did too. Like this is fun. It's good to shoot the shit and just sit around and chat with another Pats fan about what we'd like to see our team do.
Absolutely, man.
So, all right, great. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on. It was good to have you. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.